Hi everybody and welcome to the Millennial Revolt. Today we are going to be talking about Hillary Clinton because she has again come out and said that she has learned from her mistakes in her election loss, but continues to blame James Comey, the FBI director, and quote-unquote Russian Wikileaks for costing her the election. So there's so much to talk about, there's so much to get into, so let's just jump right into it. It appears as if Hillary Clinton has learned nothing from her election loss in November, because if she did, then we would actually have to be worried, because it would seem as if she would be gearing up for another election run in 2020, but she has not. She is still going on with the lie that James Comey and quote-unquote, in her words, Russian Wikileaks cost her the election. If you remember the polling back in the run-up to the general election, it was heavily skewed towards Hillary Clinton. I remember the Huffington Post poll, which will now go down in infamy, where it said that Hillary Clinton had a 92% chance of winning. I've said numerous times on this channel, and I think it bears repeating, Hillary Clinton didn't have the amount of support that the mainstream media tried to make it seem that she did. She couldn't even fill up a hall or a gymnasium filled with people to hear her speak. I remember in the final weeks of the election campaign, Tim Kaine, who was her running mate at the time, had to cancel his speaking engagements because people wouldn't come hear him speak. And he was supposed to be, if elected, the next vice president of the United States. It got to a point where people could see the writing on the wall, except the mainstream media, the legacy media, who kept pushing, she's going to break the glass ceiling, she's going to be the next woman president, we're going to have an extension of former President Obama's legacy. All of these things that the rest of us who did not support her, or even people who were outside of that smug bubble that they created for themselves, could see that she would not win. Hillary Clinton had people photoshopping her rallies to make it seem as if people were there. You had people on Twitter, correct the record, who were trolling accounts of people to correct any information on anything they said about Hillary Clinton. She didn't have genuine grassroots support. She didn't have the support of the people. People have seen enough of the Clinton crony corporatist policies. People blame the Clintons, and Hillary Clinton included, because she was pushing NAFTA, which destroyed our manufacturing industry. As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton helped destroy Libya. Now there's open slave trades in this country. You know, these were the things that were happening under Hillary Clinton, and not to mention what they did in Haiti, her and her foundation. So there was a lot for people to be upset about because they know about Hillary Clinton. It had nothing to do with James Comey putting doubt in their mind. Hillary Clinton was under FBI federal criminal investigation. If she would have been indicted, she would have been the first presidential candidate to be indicted going into the presidency. That enough should have put pause in people's minds, which it did. James Comey had nothing to do with that. People were already talking about this. So the fact that she can blame WikiLeaks, which, by the way, before James Comey's letter, they were already releasing John Podesta's emails a long time ago. It was showing the collusion between the corporate legacy media and the Clinton campaign. How many people she had on her payroll from numerous networks, from numerous newspapers. It was disgraceful, is what it was. Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and all of its neoliberal hack backers want somebody to blame instead of looking at the cold hard facts that Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate. She was a terrible person to run. She had no personality. She had no sort of voter enthusiasm, and people generally didn't like her. But what you see all of these people doing is the same thing they started doing after the election. Notice that they're not saying Russian hacks anymore, because that has been discredited numerous times over. No one could ever prove that the Russians hacked into our elections. They could not prove that any votes were actually switched, but they kept saying it all the time to cast doubt, to make it seem like President Trump was an illegitimate president and he didn't genuinely win. Now, what you see them doing is they're trying to tar WikiLeaks with a brush, saying that it is a Russian-backed organization. It is Russian WikiLeaks. It's just another smear tactic that these neoliberals are using because they don't want to accept the fact that they lost, that the Democratic Party as a whole has been decimated all over the country. And as I've said before, they are only relevant on the East Coast and on the West Coast. Nobody cares about the Democratic Party anywhere else. Why? Because they don't have a platform that speaks to people. You have a lot of people in the Democratic Party, either their base, which is the voters who have gone too far to the left on a lot of issues, alienating a lot of moderates, some of the progressives, and you have the neoliberals who continue to pander to corporations and don't want to actually draft policies that will help everyone, no matter if they're a liberal, no matter if they're a conservative, a libertarian, a progressive, a communist in the country, just help the American people. This is the problem with the Democratic Party. They have gotten away from the JFK realm where they used to be, which was about the workers, the common man. And when people looked at Hillary Clinton, they looked at the DNC establishment, they didn't trust them. They saw people who sold them out. They saw what happened in the Democratic primaries where it was blatant fraud. Blatant fraud. That also played into the fact why you had a lot of people who did not vote for you. You had a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters either vote for Dr. Jill Stein or they voted for President Trump. That plays into what happened and why people didn't vote for her. But unfortunately, for Hillary Clinton and the DNC, they don't get that. They don't understand that. If Hillary Clinton wants to blame someone, then she should blame former President Obama. When the crash happened, majority of the recovery was felt on the East Coast and the West Coast. The Rust Belt, which is the heart of the Democratic Party, did not feel that recovery. This is why they went red during this election, because people did not have jobs. People were living paycheck to paycheck, and Hillary Clinton could not even be bothered to campaign there. President Obama's fiscal policies, while it helped a lot of people get rich, did not help anyone in the Rust Belt. She was also riding off of his legacy, which wasn't good to begin with. And given the fact that she was an atrocious Secretary of State, how was she going to conduct diplomacy? That was another issue that people were worried about. Given her, she wants to destroy Iran, take them out. She was threatening on national television during the debates to shoot Russian jets from the sky. Who in their right mind would think that it was a great idea to give Hillary Clinton the nuclear button? You had video of Hillary Clinton seizing up, having to be thrown into a van. Who would want to vote for that? Not to mention, she didn't have the charisma that her husband had. He was actually likable. She couldn't speak like President Obama, where people were inspired. They may not have liked his policies, but they were inspired by him and what he said. She did not have that. Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate all around, and unfortunately, she didn't have anyone around her who would actually tell her that, because they would probably be fired. She was too busy reading the newspapers that patted her on the back watching these television shows that said good job to her and gave her a thumbs up in every single thing that she did, surrounded by yes men, for somebody to actually tell her she didn't campaign where she needed to, she didn't work hard enough, she wasn't speaking to the average American worker, her policies have been tried before and they have failed, she wasn't coming up with anything new, she basically had the whole corporate establishment behind her, and at a time where corporatism and the whole era of big business is kind of getting on people's nerves, while people are getting poorer, these people are getting richer, people didn't want to hear that. That's all she screamed. That was what people saw when they saw Hillary Clinton. The DNC and Hillary Clinton have learned nothing. They will continue to blame everyone else for her poor showing and disastrous performance by the DNC, Democratic candidates throughout this election, and Hillary Clinton in general. There is a reason why the Democratic Party has been losing in multiple state elections throughout the years. There is a reason why they are only relevant on the East and the West Coast. Their liberal supporters in the media, these neoliberals, do not help them. They only continue to perpetuate these problems. Hillary Clinton coming out, continuing to blame WikiLeaks and everyone else for her poor showings, when it was her and President Obama who should be blamed for her loss. President Obama's horrible policies, which she had to ride on, did not help anyone. Her horrible track record as a Secretary of State did her no favors. Hillary Clinton, as a junior senator, voted for the war in Iraq. She voted for the Patriot Act. These were things that she did. Hillary Clinton, as a candidate, was championing TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, calling it the gold standard of trade agreements. This was things that she was doing. Hillary Clinton is trying to save face. She is trying to distort her dying legacy. She is trying to let people know and is trying to hide the fact that you lost against a business mogul who had no sort of experience in the political arena, after a woman who was First Lady of the United States, who was Secretary of State, who was also a senator from New York. You lost to a business mogul who had a television show called The Apprentice. This is the legacy that Hillary Clinton is left with, and she wants to distort reality and blame everyone else. You see the DNC doing this as well. This is why they never let the FBI check their servers, but they want to continue to say that Russians hacked the election. This is why you see their neoliberal shills going on every single night claiming the Russians, the Russians, the Russians, because they don't want to accept the fact that people aren't buying the scam of the Democratic Party no longer. They are not the party of the working people as they claim to be. They are a party of celebrities. They are a party of big business. They are a party of rich billionaires and millionaires who feed crumbs to their base of supporters by throwing in a few policies they support and then gutting them out in Congress later on. But I'm the Millennial Revolt. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.